Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat Martial Arts and Fitness. This is Mat Chat. So today we're talking about feints. Now, when I say feint, I don't mean pass out. I mean making your opponent think that you're going to do one thing and you do something else. Feinting is an effective way to throw your opponent off. It's an effective way to solicit responses and make your opponent do things and back them into a corner. It's a good way to make your opponent do what you want them to do. Feinting in boxing and kickboxing can also be a great equalizer. When your opponent is maybe faster, maybe even more talented than you are, you can really even the odds by using feints. You pretend like you're going to do one thing, they react to it, and you do something else. It basically turns the game of striking into a game of chess, into a thinking person's game. So if you don't already use feints, it's something that you really need to throw into your game. It'll change things for you dramatically. But when I teach feints, I like to break the process down into really 3 steps. The first step is going to be to sell the feint, to sell the punch. The second step is going to be bait. And the third step is going to be switch. So you sell, you bait, and you switch. Now, the first step is the most important step. Selling your opponent the idea that you're going to do one thing. You're going to do something. And this is how you do it. When you're selling your opponent, and let's use the jab for an example. When you're selling your opponent the jab, and you're throwing that jab at them, you are establishing a norm. You're really making your opponent act subconsciously. You're taking it out of their conscious way of thinking and making their body automatically react to something by selling him the punch that you want to feint. So when you sell, it has, first of all, the first rule of an effective feint is that it has to solicit a response from your opponent. It has to solicit a reaction. So when we are selling our opponent a particular punch, and like we said, in this case, we'll use the jab. When we're selling our opponent the jab, we have to throw it in a convincing manner. I can't just lackadaisically throw a jab out that they don't respect. They have to respect the punch that I am selling them. So I have to throw it in a manner that if they do not react to it, we actually are going to end up hitting them. If we are effective in selling our opponent the punch that we want them to think we're going to throw, the rest of it matters very little. Selling your opponent what you're going to do is the most important part of this whole process. We have to throw the punch in a way that's dangerous to them. They have to respect the punch that we're throwing. So that means we have to throw it hard. The other thing that we try to do when we're feinting is sell them a particular rhythm. So we're punching, boom, boom, boom. We're selling them the seriousness of the punch. We're selling them the timing and the rhythm of the punch. And we're also selling them the actual punch. So the selling process looks like this. I throw my jab. I throw my jab hard. I throw my jab with a particular rhythm. Now, I have established a norm. Now, their body is automatically reacting to what I am doing. So when I bait and pretend like I'm going to sell them, I'm going to throw that punch, they are going to react as if I threw the punch. So the first step is selling. Then, like we said, the second step is baiting the punch. We pretend like we're going to throw it. Now, there are a few ways to do it. I like to show two ways of doing it. The first one is making your body do everything that it would do to throw that punch, except for actually throwing the punch. So it kind of looks like that. My shoulders going forward. My feet are shifting. My body is projecting forward. And I do everything that I would do to throw that punch except for throwing the punch. Now, this takes a little bit of work. This takes some practice in order to make that bait believable. You can't throw and establish the punch and then do something completely different with your body that's not associated with throwing that punch. You're going to confuse them. They might even freeze and not react at all to what it is that you're trying to convince them that you're throwing. So the first way, like I said, is to make your body do everything that it would do to throw that punch, except for throwing the punch. The second way is to throw the punch out about a quarter of the way. So extending your arm about a quarter of the way does the trick too. So to back up, we sold them the punch. We established the norm. In this case, we're using the jab. So we threw the jab, a hard jab, a few times. Then we bait by either making our body do what it would do to throw that punch, except for throw the punch, or extend the punch, extend the hand out about a quarter of the way. And then the final step in the process is switching. So by switching, we throw something else. We switch it up on them. Now, here's where the creativity comes into play. When we have thrown an effective feint that solicits a response from our opponent, now we look for the opening that reaction from our opponent creates. So for example, I feint the jab. My opponent raises their hands, opens up the body. So when I switch, I go to the body. Another example, I sell the jab. I feint the jab. My opponent's hands come in front. I go around with a hook. So a lot of times we'll train the feint, we'll throw an effective feint, we'll do all the steps correctly. We sell it nicely. We feint it nicely. And then we throw something right at the spot where they're reacting to. We have to finish strong. So we can't just go through the motions, solicit the response, and then throw something else that response protects against. So we have to base our punch that we end up throwing off of the response that we solicit from throwing the feint. Very important. If you are able to effectively do this, then you can kind of create openings at will. If you effectively do step one, meaning you sell them on the punch that you want them to think you're going to throw. If you effectively do that, the other two, the feinting part becomes less important. You can literally sneeze and that will cause them to react based on the punch that you sold them. So the first step is the most important step. But then that's where I would say practice and repetition can happen with the timing of the punch that you're looking to sell them, the work on your acting skills and make sure that the feint that you do looks realistic. Practice it in the mirror. It takes a little bit of practice to make your body do everything that it would do to throw a punch except for throw the punch. That's something that you need to practice. But the punch that you end up throwing, that's where the creativity comes into play. That's where you have to adjust on the fly. So when practicing feinting, it's important to go through all three steps. Don't just sit there and do this, even though that's a part of it, but practice the whole process. And then visualize the response options you're likely to solicit. So, using the jab as an example, if I throw a hard jab and I do a really good job at selling them on the jab, there are going to be a few options, there are going to be a few responses that I'm going to be able to draw out of my opponent. They might pick their hand up the block. They might step back. They might slip. They might parry. And when you're practicing, Visualize all of those responses and place the punch that you end up choosing on, base it on the different responses that you're going to get, and drill that. But drilling it, even though there's an element of creativity involved, drilling it ultimately is what's going to make it effective. So, to recap, there are 3 steps to feinting effectively. The first step is to sell. Throw something that they actually are going to respect. Throw something that's going to solicit a response. Sell. Then bait, the actual physical feint, pretending like you're going to do the same thing again. Then switch, throw something else. All right, guys, gotta run. Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat Martial Arts and Fitness. This was Matt Chat.